Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Mr. Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Friday, everybody. Happy Diwali. It's Diwali
Happy
time.
Diwali. Happy Diwali to you, Raghunath.
Happy Diwali.
Mara. Happy Diwali, Mara.
It's the time for, if you read what it says, like on Wikipedia about Diwali, to say, it's the time for buying gold, silver, shopping. I was like, what? That's why we don't celebrate it.
It's too expensive.
Well, it's, like I said, within Hinduism, it's like a myriad of all different types of, because it was Lakshmi's appearance. So therefore they say it's a great day to buy gold or silver and, or shopping. Shopping's popular on Diwali. Putting up candles, decorating your house with the candles in the shape of Om.
Why the candles? Why the lamps? Why is this?
From what I understand, it's like the return of Ram to Ayodhya.
That's right.
To light the way and light over darkness and stuff like that.
So imagine Raghu, if you were in a flying chariot and you're there.
I imagine that on the regular basis.
And you're there with Sita, and you got Hanuman on there with you, And then you fly on in, and you're coming to the city of Ayodhya, and then you look down. It's nighttime, and you look down, and it's all lit up, with all the streets and everything is like lit up with lamps. Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Yeah, it would be very beautiful.
So that's what we're doing here.
We're welcoming back Ram. Welcome Ram into our life. Excited for that. I guess people who worship Kali or Durga or it triggers different rituals. In our tradition, we think of Ram coming back. Ram is home. And me, Mara, Bunky, Bobby, Don, Kaylee, Lady Di. Who else? Damodar Priya. We have just, our regular reading group is getting together to, I don't think Lady Di even knows. But we're getting together to worship Govardhan Hill today because Bobby couldn't do it tomorrow. So we decided, we're just going to do a little private one.
Okay. Because tomorrow's Govardhan Puja.
Yeah, that's the day to worship Govardhan. We've been reading in our Sweet Baby Krishna, and we're going to read tonight there too at 7:30. We've been reading about the appearance of Govardhan, which is really good. And Govardhan descended from the spiritual realm because Radha would not come to earth unless there was Govardhan, the Yamuna, and the Vrindavan forest. So Krishna said, okay, so be it. So a little chip of the spiritual realm landed on earth. And yesterday, what did we read about yesterday? It was a good one. Oh,
the worship of Govardhan.
How to worship Govardhan, and what else? There's something else good in there. My short-term memory is not fully recovered. Don't you remember? The worship, the offense. I can't remember. Anyway.
Well, you know what today is for Krishna Lila, what Diwali is?
What?
It's the day of the Damodar Lila.
I thought it was. This is the day.
This is
the
one
day that he
got tied up by the love of his mother Yashoda. Yeah.
Love and the rope, both.
Mm-hmm.
It's the rope of love.
That's right.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? It's worshipped by some Buddhists, Jains. It's pretty like everybody
Diwali.
celebrates. Yeah, Diwali.
Mhm.
Okay. I did have
It's
some.
also a day. You know what they say on this day? You do. You're supposed
What?
to do. People paint their homes on this day, right? Like it's kind of like everything's supposed to be kind of like fresh and clean, or
Yeah.
they paint it for this day, like I guess the day before, whatever. And they do that whitewash a lot. And but also you're supposed to let go of all kind of like animosities, any kind of grudge you're holding. Maybe there's someone in your life you haven't worked some. You let it go today, right?
You know what? That's so powerful. It's so powerful. I've had some issue with somebody, and they wrote me a very sweet. Like they did something. They admitted they did something, but they wrote me a very very sweet message yesterday. Like I'm sorry, and
You mean they
I'm
did
sorry
something
message.
to you, like out of their
They did
animosity?
something. They did something to me out of like animosity, and they were what do you call it? And I don't know. It sort of just like severed something. And then
Then they
I tried to
apologize.
apply all my 6 pillars of bhakti, but it just sort of hurt my heart. But anyway, they just wrote this apology last night when I was with Mara and Bunky, and I was like, it's so powerful to apologize. You could
Let's
just
hear
see.
that apology. Read it right now.
I understand. No, what it is. You realize this person's actually evolved. It's
Excellent.
one thing. It's one thing. Even me and Bunky got in a fight the other time.
Do you have a video of that? Could you put that up on Patreon?
I wish I did. I wish I did. Bunky, I'm ratting us out here. But Bunky, being the big man that he is, he came up to me and he was like apologetic, and I was apologetic, and it's just like something so like almost like magical, like Christmas morning magic, when people can apologize and accept that apology, when people can please forgive me, when people take responsibility and say, you know what, I shouldn't have done this. Like already, I'm ready to respond to that text message with all of my responsibility.
Nice. Yeah, it's just like it opened the door. Right?
Yeah, not just like when someone apologizes, you'd be like, "Yeah, it's about time you apologize." It's when you can accept when you can accept any responsibility in your part. It's quite beautiful.
Well, that's what you do on Diwali,
And that's maybe that's why they did it. Maybe that's why me and Bunky got in that fight.
Maybe it was because it was Diwali.
We practice our forgiveness, our apologies. It's good. No one likes to walk around with resentment. It's like a heavy burden.
Yeah, let it go.
Resentment's a poison I take to kill you. Ever heard that one? Resentment's a poison I take
to kill
you. Like I think I'm punishing you by hating your guts.
Yeah.
But I'm punishing myself. It's a poison I'm taking. Like this stupid father, my stupid older brother, my stupid blah, blah, blah. But it's the hate that I'm carrying around in my consciousness. That can't happen if I want to evolve in spiritual life. So if I got some hate and resentment, Nancy R. and Shiva, they know all this stuff. They're 12-step black belts. They go through this stuff, and you have to 12-steppers, a bhakti recovery group. They got to let go of resentment, or they will hit a ceiling in their spiritual life. But all spirit souls have to do it.
Right.
And so, it's in our literature, but it's like very black and white in the 12-step literature.
Well, like traditionally on Diwali, you go to the temple and there was lighting everything up, and people are going around, they're giving each other sweets and stuff like that,
Yeah.
And so when you're standing in front of that person who you're holding, you got a grudge against each other, everybody just says, it's Diwali, we just got to let that all go now. Everybody knows it, right? And then you just let that stuff go. Let it go.
Nice. That's nice.
Right.
Yeah, it's horrible. My father was really close to his nephew. They're sort of close in age also, and they did a business deal together. And we were very close to their family.
Sometimes in the business
and something
deal
went wrong in business.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart as a kid that now we're not friends with them anymore.
Right.
It was sad. So yeah, it hurts, especially if you're on a spiritual path. It hurts that your path, and it never lets us self-reflect on what I do wrong. Self-reflection is a big part of what we're doing, owning responsibility and being eager to hear critique of us. Being eager to hear critique of us, is important as well.
So we're going to spend the show critiquing Raghunath today. Everybody has a chance.
Everybody just put it up on the board. What's wrong with Raghunath today? Come on, slow down.
Let's start unmuting
one at a
people over
time. Zoom.
Let's start with
people at
Mara.
Zoom are like, this is overwhelming. Something's happening to our circuits today. Mara said, someone wrote in and said, I started watching Wisdom of Sages on a recommendation from somebody, and like that Raghunath was just too much. But now he sort of grew on me, and I'm sort of like a fungus.
Okay.
I'm like an athlete's foot.
He's a little itchy, but he grows on you.
Hey, I might be staying over your house. I forgot to tell you.
No, you did
Sunday.
tell me. On Sunday,
It might be
Saturday.
Saturday.
Huh?
I know. I might.
Saturday
that's what I
and
just
Sunday.
said. I didn't tell you. No, just one of the days.
Oh, okay.
It's my
You're
mother's
always welcome
birthday.
here. You're always
It's my
welcome here.
mother's birthday.
I know.
She's 95.
That's
Born
impressive.
1926. Isn't that unbelievable? People were born.
You just got to
then.
respect that itself. Like, you're 95. You've got
Give
my
this woman a
respect.
garland. She's 95. She made it.
Yeah.
She made it. She's got like a good demeanor. She's happy. She's birthed 7 children. That's like 6 years in having a child in your body,
Wow.
right? And what do you call it? And it's she's miraculously healthy with no pains or aches, considering she's never had a yoga membership or belonged to a gym. She
Well,
might.
maybe
She
we
doesn't even know
don't
how
need
to
to
ride
do
a
this
bike or
stuff.
swim. She doesn't even know how to swim or ride a bike. They didn't have bikes then.
Right.
So anyway, I'm gonna
Impressive.
see her. I'm gonna see her and have dinner. Take her out to dinner.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get
And
into
don't
the
say
show.
Divya's, because the last thing my Italian family is gonna go to Divya's on her birthday.
I didn't
You're
say
just-
anything.
I know, but why don't you go to Divya's? 'Cause
I
my
didn't
brothers
say
and
that.
sisters will not go to Divya's. That's why. But I appreciate your sentiment, even though you didn't say it. You were thinking it.
Maybe bring him to the donut plant. Everybody's got to appreciate that.
Everybody can appreciate the donut plant. That's a good point. All right. That's a great idea. Maybe I should bring them all donuts from Donut Plant. They have to accept.
Come on, it's that whole Italian thing. They'll relate to that. It's no problem. Like, right? You're walking there with that box.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, "Where are the
Everybody's
cannolis? Where are the cannolis?" You don't know what I'm dealing with.
The cannolis. They don't have cannolis. Okay, Raghu, we gotta get started here. Come on.
Okay, let's do it. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before we start in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhakti ravati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnanattamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Madatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual masters are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3.
Chapter.
Stop playing hot seat with me like this.
I mean,
morning.
it's so easy.
Early in
I'm
the
trying to
morning.
give you an easy one to get you started.
27, chapter 27.
That's right.
And I don't know what verse.
Okay,
It's
so
5. Yes, it's 5.
okay.
We are in verse 5 today.
More instructions. Oh, and you saw the rest of
And I saw, and me and
Matrix.
me and Bunky and Mara. Mara, that's going to be your initiated name.
You're Matrix Davy.
What?
Hold it.
Okay, so yeah, we finished the Matrix yesterday. It was very hard for me. They were both punching me in each shoulder. I was like, ugh. But what a great movie. What a great movie.
Okay, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it today. Let's see.
All right, cool. All right, so you want to go right to 5?
Yeah.
Okay. It is the duty of every conditioned soul I like that. I like when people lay out, what is your duty? This is
Okay.
your duty. You want to know what your duty is? This is your duty.
Let's hear
It's
it.
it's the duty of every conditioned soul to engage his polluted consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
That's assuming I have a polluted consciousness.
Just
Guess
accept
what?
it.
You do.
You
do. You're polluted. You are like the Gowanus Canal in your consciousness.
For those not familiar with the Gowanus Canal.
It's like one of the most polluted.
Oh God.
No, there's some
terrible.
very well. So there's super funds all over the place that are polluted, but our consciousness is polluted, which is now attached to material enjoyment. Your polluted consciousness is attached to some type of perverse material enjoyment. When I say perverse, just doesn't mean perverted. It just means it's not of your original
I believe
nature.
literally it does, but
It does mean that? Okay.
I mean,
Let me manipulate the English language in very serious devotional service with detachment. So it's a duty of every conditioned soul to engage the polluted consciousness, which is now attached to material enjoyment, in very serious bhakti.
Serious bhakti.
Serious bhakti, devotional service with detachment.
Mhm.
Thus, his mind and consciousness will be under full control.
Okay.
It's a pretty powerful statement.
It's a great. Maybe we just read it one time straight through.
It is the duty of every conditioned soul to engage his polluted consciousness, which is now attached to material enjoyment, in very serious devotional service with detachment. Thus, his mind and consciousness will be under full control.
Okay. So we, in the verses building up to this, we were reading about how we get lost in the dream, right? You experience all kind of disadvantages due to it. It's like you're stuck in the matrix and you can't transcend it and so on. What's the way out? How do I get my mind freed from this? How do I bring my thinking to a higher plane? The remedy was given in this verse. Specifically, the term used here is bhakti-yogena tivrena. Tivrena, right? Does that ring any bells, Raghunath? Tivrena
Tivrena?
and bhakti-yogena.
Bhakti-yogena sevate. That Bhakti-yogena
No.
sevate. No. Tivrena? No, it doesn't.
Tivrena bhakti-yogena yajeta purusham param.
Nope, don't
Right?
know it.
Akama sarvakamo va.
Oh, kama servant. Okay. Okay, I'm going to say something you don't know later.
Okay, well, no, you know that one, though,
surprised.
don't you? Akama sarvakamo va. Don't
I'll
you
be
know that?
back. I'll be back.
Do you know that one? You can break out your numbers book.
Akama sarvakama va moksha karma udara.
Exactly how many cows did
Tivrena
Paranjan Maharaj
bhakti-yogena
have?
Saranam dadam uchyate. That's it.
I'm saying you're going to break out your numbers book. You're going to ask me, how many cows did Parjanya Maharaj have? So-
It's my Krishna conscious trivia resentment I carry with me. Oh, I was so humiliated that day.
no, but you know that verse.
Yes.
Akama
bhakti-yoga.
sarvakamo.
That's a
Yeah.
great verse.
Well,
Whether
so
you have
it-
all desires, right?
Yeah.
Whether you have no desires, sarvakama, all desires, or
Yeah.
what's that third one?
Akama means
Sarvakama,
no,
right. No
sarvakama means
desires.
you're full of devotion.
Filled with desires,
Yeah.
or
Sarvakama va. Moksha kama, you desire liberation.
you desire liberation. Isn't it interesting? I guess that's a big one.
Well, because people equate that. In
With
other words, some
heaven.
spiritual.
With heaven.
Well,
Like that's
well,
it. That's the goal. That's the home run. That's the
Well,
touchdown.
in other words, that you're free of desire, but even the desire for moksha, even that's, in one sense, a desire and a selfish desire, right? It's focused on, this is the experience that I want to have. I'm not really concerned about you.
right.
I want, but whereas love is a different thing. And in this bhakti text, Bhagavatam, which is, again, the conclusion of all of the Vedic literature, the mature fruit of all the Vedic teachings, it's going to explain that actually, yeah, even moksha, even the desire for freedom from all material suffering, you still haven't elevated your consciousness to its full potential, which is actually divine love, and it's something beyond that. So in that verse, it's using the same term. Here it said bhakti-yoga tivrena. Tivrena means like with intensity, right? So it's saying you need to perform. Imagine again Morpheus speaking to Neo and saying, if you want to break out of this, you need to do this, but you need to practice. You need to realize that this is a virtual reality that you're in. You need to realize that in order to get there, you got to practice this with intensity, right? Like you have to, with great intensity, you have to apply your mind to this idea that I am beyond this. And in order to get there, you need to separate yourself from this or become detached from it. You know, you need to become
How do you
detached.
do that? How do you do? It's amazing.
Well,
Huh?
there you go. Through Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. That's the point. There is a way to do it. It's by applying yourself with intensity. And like, I think that qualifier there, you know, with intensity is really important because, like, for all of us, like, say, hey, we're into bhakti, right? We like the culture. We find it appealing. We like the philosophy. We find it appealing. We like each other and the song and stuff. And that's all wonderful and great. But if we want to achieve the goal of it, we got to get a little intense, you know?
Yeah.
And meaning that, like, intense, it was mentioning in this verse that with that intensity comes detachment, right? What did it say again here? It says, it is the duty of every conditioned soul to engage their polluted consciousness, which is now attached to material enjoyment, in very serious, tivrena, very serious devotional service with detachment. So that means when our attachments are arising in us, and they arise on a regular basis because we do have a Gowanus Canal mind full of, you know, of material attachments. At that point, if we're serious, we apply the philosophy, right? We reflect on the philosophy, and we begin that practice. It's that reflection, you know, in that moment that is, you know, let's say, generates the kind of traction that we need to begin to transform the mind, to bring the mind and consciousness under full control, like's being said here, you know. And the more that we're willing to engage in the matrix, the more that we want to enjoy it separately. And this is, you know, this is where everyone's mind gets a little touchy, right? Are you saying that we can't enjoy life? No. What we're trying to do is get you to the point.
Yes, we are.
I'm not. I'm saying, what we're saying is that there's a much greater enjoyment in reality than an illusion, but the illusion comes with all kind of disadvantages. So the more that you embrace the illusion, again, let's look at it this way, Raghu. Let's picture Raghu. We got him sitting in a chair, okay? Just like in the Matrix, right? You're sitting in that chair. Were they on a spaceship or something? They were flying around, or
It was a spaceship.
it was a spaceship, right? Yeah, okay. So you're on this spaceship. You're flying around. You're kind of strapped down in that chair, and we got you plugged into virtual reality, okay?
Right.
And what do you want in your virtual reality? Just give me a few basics, and we'll
In my
arrange that for you.
virtuality,
Yeah.
love, adventure.
No, I mean more like things. I mean, what kind of things you want there?
I would like a squirrel suit. You want the God on a street? A squirrel suit. One of those things where I could just jump off a cliff, open up my arms like the coyote.
Like the coyote, and then hit the cliff.
I think the coyote was the original squirrel suit.
I know. Yeah, that Acme produced it, I believe.
You have to be of our generation to even understand that one, Karuna. You'll never understand the coyote.
So let's say within your virtual reality, Raghunath, you have a home. You find that home to be comfortable and pleasing. You know, there's certain foods within that virtual reality that you are enjoying. Although they don't really exist, you're experiencing them as if they do. Right. And so on. There's other enjoyments and pleasures.
Can I have people in my?
Yeah, you want
a drag queen.
Girlfriend? What do you want?
I want a drag queen.
Okay, you have a drag queen.
And I want other friends.
But you have other friends, and you know, quite frankly, you know, when we talk, all this ultimately goes towards like sexual enjoyment and that too. So there's all these things are there, right?
Yeah.
And now this is the point. You're in that virtual reality, but then let's say Mara also enters into that virtual reality. She's strapped in another chair, but you're both in the same computer program now. You're both in the same matrix. Mara comes up and explains to you, Raghunath, don't you understand that your home here, this is not a real home?
Sure.
That this is a virtual home. And don't you understand that the food that you're eating right now, that's not real food, that's virtual food. And she begins to explain this to you just like Morpheus does. And she does it with such clarity that you get it. And you're like, I think you're onto something, Mara. That makes perfect sense. I buy into this idea. Okay? But then what's going to happen is a little bit later, and then Mara's going to move on. And then you're going to still be in your home, and there's still going to be that food, and you're going to begin to think like, this will make me happy. This will make me happy. Even though you know that it's virtual, but you begin to engage. But now the ticket out of the virtual reality is you have to become entirely convinced that my happiness and my nature lies beyond this. But the problem is that the more you engage with the virtual reality, the more you forget that. right? You understand? You with me?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how some people are like, no, I want the illusion. Like, what was that guy's name? That guy was starring in it. And the guy with the mustache. And he was
The guy
like,
from The
and he tried
Sopranos?
to kill. He tried to. Is he the Sopranos?
Yeah.
Yeah, he tried to kill everybody. And
He betrayed everyone.
yeah, he's like, I don't want to. I prefer the illusion.
Yeah, but
There's some times where we, even in knowledge, we're like, we willingly say, you know what? I prefer the illusion.
sometimes the whole thing.
The illusion's not so bad.
Well, that's what we're doing here,
What?
right? Like that's why we're in these bodies.
Well, I like to think like we're trying to climb the mountain, my friend.
Well, my point is the whole reason that we're here is because we chose the illusion.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. But there's some people, even when they're climbing the mountain, even when they feel like I'm going somewhere, but they're like, you know what? This mountain is so steep. I'm just going to go back to the illusion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
It's an ugly place. It's an ugly place.
But let's go ahead and look at that verse Akama Sarvakama Va,
Okay.
which is from the Srimad Bhagavatam,
You might have
Canto
heard of that
2,
book.
Canto 2, Chapter 3, entitled Pure Devotional Service. Putting you
In
on the hot
action.
seat.
In action.
The change of heart.
Humiliating me again.
Okay, again. Okay. Pure devotional service that change the heart. And now this is an interesting, it's an interesting chapter, the way that it plays out. Because the way that that chapter opened up is Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Pariksit, and he says, as you've inquired from me as to the duty of an intelligent person who's on the threshold of death, so I've answered you. And then he gives this long list of, if you want this is who you worship. Do you remember that? Like he gives this long list. I'll read some of them. He says, one who desires to be absorbed in the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence should worship the master of the Vedas, Lord Brahma or Brihaspati. Right? And it goes on, you know, one who desires powerful sex should worship. Do you know who?
Of course I do. I've got the giant deity, the giant deity set up right here. I just finished puja.
Do you know
No, I
who?
don't know. I don't know who.
King Indra. King Indra.
King Indra, yes.
Right? He's one of the great devas, right?
One of the
One who
great
desires good
enjoyers.
progeny, right? Should worship. Who?
Kamadev.
No.
No, I don't know. I
You
don't
should
know.
worship the Prajapatis, right? The
Okay,
great
that makes
progenitors.
sense.
That makes sense, right?
Mary,
did-
you want to stump me on any?
One who desires good fortune should worship.
Lakshmi. Ganesh.
Actually, it says here Durga Devi,
Durga.
the superintendent of the material world. She's the superintendent of the material
Getting
world.
even the obvious ones.
I know, that was
wrong.
a tough one. That was a tough one. That had a twist. One desiring to be very powerful should worship. You're never going to get it. Fire.
Fire.
One who aspires only after money should worship.
Kartikeya.
The Vasus.
The Vasus. Just tell us.
If
please.
one wants to be
Unless
a
you
great
just wanna,
hero.
like, you just want to slap me back. And
No.
forth.
If one wants to be a great hero, who should they worship?
Ram.
Lord Shiva. One who wants large stocks of grain should worship. Aditi. Okay, I don't expect you to get any of these, but it's interesting. I just read a few of them. This list goes on and on and on. It just keeps going. Who you should worship if you want this. But then one could ask the question: why are we getting this in Bhagavatam? Right? Isn't the Bhagavatam?
Yeah, above this type of stuff.
Isn't it right? It seems to be. So actually, all these verses are in a certain context. He's saying one could think this way. One who thinks this way, what they would do is they would worship this. You know, one who wants material things in life. The Vedic teachings are giving us the directions of who to connect with in the universal management system to receive the desires that you want. And if you express your gratitude and so on, then one can be blessed in this way. But after it gives this whole long list of who you worship for this and for that, then it says in text 10, which is the text that we're talking about, akama sarvakama va, moksha kama udaradi, that a person who has broader intelligence, a person who's beyond that, right, who's realized my happiness does not come from anything material, whether it be powerful sex or lots of money or becoming a hero or all of these things. One who has a broader intelligence, whether they do have material desires, or whether they're free of material desires, or whether they're desiring liberation. In any of those cases, they by all means must engage in bhakti yoga with intensity. Tivrena bhakti yogena. Right? So this is the same phrase used there. It's saying, in other words, a wise person realizes that by practicing bhakti yoga, and not just practicing it, but practicing it with a certain intensity, right? A certain conviction, a strong conviction, that one can transcend all of the miseries of this world. And so that's what Kapila Dev is saying here to Devahuti. You know, and just
you need friends. You need friends who are going to be like, okay, dude, up your game a little.
Yeah, we all got to up it together.
You need friends who are going to say like that.
Yeah, because it's too
I'm
easy to go.
I'm going to Texas and Nashville. In next week, and so Texas and Nashville, and as soon as and so Cindy Lunsford's like, oh, hey, what do you say when you get here? We just make a decision to chant 64 rounds. I was like, okay.
That's intensity, right?
Yeah, it's like intensity. I was like, you need that type of intensity. I was like, and what am I supposed to say? She's my yoga student.
Okay.
I was like, I was like, well, we could do that if I chant. So all you got to do is chant 16 rounds before you get on the plane. I was like, all right, I guess I could. But it's something like that. Friendship means you poke people to raise the bar. That's a real friend. The friendship doesn't mean you commiserate with the person as they blame the world for what, how the world has poo-pooed upon them. No, a real friend says, hey, you know what? You can do it like this. I believe in you. I think you can do it. Oh, you know what? I really needed that encouragement today. Mm-hmm. There you go.
10, 16 rounds. Yeah. And it's only, again, it's saying it has to be done. It has to be done with intensity. Let's look at the Matrix again, right? Neo is being explained how he's in a virtual world, but it's not, the whole story is him building up till he gains his power, right? In other words, to the point where he's realized it so deeply that he's actually free within that realm, right? That he's no longer bound by that realm, but he can transcend that realm even while living in it. But it's a struggle for him to accept it with full conviction, right? It's hard.
Sure. But then he gets full on determined.
He does. Yeah.
Right.
And he does. And then he realizes it. And so that intensity is what it takes. Like we hear ideas like, for instance, I'm not this body, right?
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Right.
Makes sense.
We can look at it. I'm observing the body. I'm even observing the mind. I get it. This is a vehicle. It's not me. I'm just in this vehicle. I'm only in it for a certain amount of time. It's constantly changing. I'm remaining the same. This makes perfect sense.
And then you get a migraine.
Well, then you get a migraine, or then you get some.
You're like, I am the body.
Yeah, you become totally right. Or you become. You've laid out your path. Your path has been laid out of how you're going to more deeply realize this. But then bodily callings, bodily urges, bodily desires begin to stray you, pull you astray from that path, right? So it's easy to know it in one sense, but to really know it,
to apply it. I will say just the knowledge of it. Like if you think about it, I remember my life before I got into Bhakti at all. Everything was just like a mystery. Like there was no map of reality. Are your desires good? Maybe they're good. Maybe you got to dive deeper into your desires. You're not diving deep enough. You got to really go through all of your desires to be really joyful in this world. You got to do everything, anything that pops in your mind, you got to do it. You're just holding back. So it's like there was no map whatsoever. So I remember just sort of even like the first big sort of like sinkhole in my life when my father had passed away. When I was 19, I thought, okay, he's leaving his body. How do you assimilate death if you have no map whatsoever? You're not really into religion. You grew up something or other, but you didn't really follow it. But there's a whole map. You might not fully get it. You might not. You still might be very attached. You might not follow any of the principles, but there's an idea that the soul is eternal. It's a story. You might just call it a story, but that story can become really useful in helping you cope with the pain and the screwballs that that the material world throws at you on a regular basis. What is it? A beanball.
Beanball.
You were a baseball guy. A beanball. That's when they hit you in the head with the baseball by mistake.
Throw the baseball at you.
At your head.
Okay.
Yeah. So the material world is throwing beanballs at us on the regular, and how do you cope with it? What a great map. The soul is eternal. No one's dying. It's just changing bodies. I found that really useful. I wasn't evolved. I wasn't advanced. I didn't get it. I didn't chant, but I found that incredibly applicable when the rest of my people in my family were breaking down in tears. I mean, it's not like I wasn't breaking down in tears, but I felt like some solace there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I do know. So that's what you're saying is important. That even just the surface level knowledge brings a lot of auspiciousness into our life. But to break free from the matrix, it'll take Tivrena Bhakti-yogi. It'll take an intense application.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Well, especially when it's really happening to us, probably, when we're on our deathbed, that's when everything that we building to culminates, like in the final exam.
Yeah. Now, why don't we read a little bit of this commentary here? I'm going to jump in towards the middle of it, okay?
Sure. I'm just compiling trivia questions for you in a long sheet. Don't worry. Keep going.
Well, I'm going to be quizzing you while we go through this purport and having you fill in all the details. As soon as one engages in serious devotional service, serious bhakti, naturally the propensity to falsely claim lordship over the material nature disappears. There's a big clue about life right there, right? Because we're hearing earlier in the earlier verses about like the key thing you need to understand to break free from the matrix is that I'm not the proprietor of things here, right?
Yeah.
I'm just the guy passing through the matrix. So Prabhupada writes here, connecting it to those previous verses, as soon as one engages in such serious devotional service to the Lord, naturally the propensity to falsely claim lordship over material nature disappears. What does that mean to claim lordship over material nature?
This is mine.
Yeah.
I, me, and mine.
Yeah. Even
I'm
this
the
is
controller.
my body.
Why aren't these people listening to me? Don't they understand how intelligent I am? Why are they doing it like that? They should be doing it like this. What is the matter with everybody? How many times have I told you this? Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? Don't you know who I am?
Okay, I got it. You seem
These
well
are things
practiced.
that are coming out of my mouth on the regular basis.
Oh, did you put that in your book about that time in the airport?
Oh no, I didn't. That would be good.
At one point,
the time I was a humble brahmachari, I almost got in a fist fight with the guy because he wouldn't let me on the plane. The plane left without me.
Oh no!
My plane left without me. I kid you not, I had $1 in my pocket, no credit cards, and 3 giant trunks. And the guy was like, yes. And the next plane is not till Thursday. And it was like Monday. The next plane is not till Thursday. And it's going to cost you $100 to change your ticket.
And you said something like, "Don't you know who I am?"
Don't say it. Don't say
Okay.
it. I said something. It was, you know what it was, Kaustubha, and I'll just tell everybody here on Zoom here. It was a test because I was at that long period, when you've been a brahmachari for a few years and you feel like, yeah, I'm very detached. Yeah, I'm very cool. You know what happened?
I was like, spiritual people.
I'm a spiritual guy. I'm very spiritual. I had a beard. I was like, my clothes were like raggy. I liked being like a sadhu in India.
You thought raggy clothes makes you look more spiritual, right?
I thought it did. It did. And anyway, I was just like enjoying the freedom. And I had a little bit more wisdom, a little bit more detached. I've been around the block a little bit in spiritual circles. I volunteered to I had carried nothing. And I volunteered to take the temple president's 3 gigantic trunks home with me. Mm-hmm. And I had no money, so I got a ride to the airport 11 hours earlier.
You're so sacrificing.
You know what? I just said, Yeah, I'm just like, I'm going to sit in the airport, just chant japa. I'll chant extra rounds.
Because
so
that's the kind of person you are.
Well, that's what I thought I was. And then I started chanting for hours. And I was like, this is incredible. And my flight is now.
I'm so advanced.
Waited You ever do this? No, I mean, this isn't something you would do, but it's something I do regularly.
What do you do?
You ever like have a flight that's at 12:01 and you're like,
you got there on the wrong day.
I got there the day early.
You got to be careful about that.
So after 11 hours of waiting and chanting japa, I realized I'm a day early for my flight. I was like, and back then you could stay in the airport. So I just like, okay, I'm being tested by Maya. I'm going to win this test. I make a vow. And I chant, I can't remember, some chant a lot of rounds, to read the Mahabharata all day, and to sleep on my trunks. Like I'm sleeping on the floor. I had to sleep on 3 trunks.
Nice.
Then I did it again. I waited like 36 hours in the airport, and then they wouldn't, not 36, but whatever. And then they wouldn't let me on the plane. But it was Krishna's beautiful arrangement.
You snapped.
I snapped. You know what? I thought I was really spiritual. Some airport guy my age in a suit was poking at me. You'll never get on this plane. And I was like, oh yeah, Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna. I tried to be really cool. And then once the plane took off, he goes, I told you you'd never get on. You got to admit, you got to understand, I was dressed like a holy man, and I grabbed.
Oh no, Raghunath.
I grabbed him and threw him against the wall.
No, you never told me that.
I never told you that.
You told me the things you said, which were outrageous, Raghunath. Quite frankly,
they're outrageous. Anyway, I'm just being straightforward. I lost my cool in the airport. Appreciate it. And dressed in saffron robes with the beard, practically barefoot. But you know what? It worked out great. It worked out great because the next day. Well, I just took a bus to the Delhi temple. Back then, you could lock stuff in airports. Took the bus to the Delhi temple.
What did they call that? That place that they had that building out there in the parking lot, right? Where you could left luggage. They would used to call it.
Left luggage, yes.
But
yes.
All like the terrorism just ruined that. But you used to just be able to leave bags there for months at a time.
Leave luggage for months. Yeah. Terrorists ruining that. Anyway, then the next day was Rath Yatra, so they engaged me in decorating the Rath Yatra cart. And I was like, okay. And then so that was going on for hours, you're decorating the cart. And then all of a sudden more people started coming. And then the whole parade started. And then I was on top of Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra cart. And I was like, this is incredible. And I got to be the guy to throw out the maham, the bananas. And it's not like in America where people are like looking at that Rath Yatra cart confused, like, what the hell's going on?
You have to explain what the Rath Yatra cart is.
Krishna's
a lot of listeners.
The Rath Yatra cart is this incredible wooden post and beam cart, like huge. The size of, a bus, maybe a double decker. No, 4 buses. And they have these giant deities on the cart, and it's painted very outrageously. And the priests, or one priest is worshiping the deity, and the other people on the cart are like throwing out prasad. But in India, everyone's throwing gifts to the deity. So everyone's throwing fruit and oranges and grapes, and I'm trying to catch them, and I throw them back. And it's not like New York where that Rath Yatra lasts like 3 hours, and then we have a little festival. That thing went on for like 8 hours, 8 hours beginning to end. But it was great.
Okay.
I just, I hope that story didn't reveal too much about my inner workings.
No. It was very vulnerable of you to share that, Raghunath, and it was educational for us.
Mara, did you know that story? She's like, I know all your stories. I know all your stories.
How many times have I heard that story? Okay, so back to the commentary. As soon as one engages in such serious devotional service of the Lord, naturally the propensity to falsely claim lordship over material nature disappears. All that, don't you know who I am? Why? This isn't fair. Yeah. All of that, you let it go. You do it on Diwali. If you're not going to do it on any other day, let it go on Diwali, right? And then Prabhupada writes, this detachment is called, Raghunath? What's the Sanskrit word for detachment?
Vairagya.
Thank you.
Vairagya.
It's called Vairagya. Instead of being absorbed in so-called material lordship, one engages in Krishna consciousness. That is control of consciousness. So there's a way to do it. We're asking, well, how do you do that, right? How do you realize that I'm in the matrix but really I'm beyond it? You do it by engaging your consciousness with intensity on that which lies beyond the matrix. And ultimately that's Krishna, like ultimately that's God, right? So it's a way to, bhakti yoga is a way of engaging the mind, engaging the senses, engaging the body to bring your consciousness to what's beyond the matrix that we're living in. So he says that is control of consciousness. The yoga process necessitates controlling the senses, right? Because the more that you engage your senses in the matrix, with backed by desire, the more you become convinced that the matrix is real. So he says, yoga indriya samyaya. Since the senses are always active, their activities should be engaged in devotional service. One cannot stop their activities. If one wants to now he's going to talk about other ideas about yoga or meditation, which in one sense are like, how do I want to say it? It's kind of like more modern ideas that have been kind of dreamt up, but that aren't there in these kind of texts, right? He says, if one wants to artificially stop the activities of the senses, their attempts will be a failure. And then he gives an example. Can you think of who that example might be?
Shobri Muni.
Close. Another Muni who was fixed in his meditation until he got distracted.
Visvamitra.
That's right, Visvamitra Muni.
Oh, got it. I'm back.
Okay, you're back, Raghu. Who was trying to control his senses by the yoga process. He was like intense in his meditation, right? Just trying to empty the mind and all that. But what happened?
Menaka.
Yeah, Menaka came along.
Menaka, the heavenly damsels.
The
heavenly damsel came and appeared and danced in front of him, and he was sitting there in meditation. He couldn't meditate because she heard the jingling of her ankle bells, and he's just like, ugh.
Right. So
happens.
Yep. He says there are many such instances. Prabhupada says here there are many such instances. Unless one's mind and consciousness are fully engaged, again with intensity, in devotional service, there is always the opportunity for the mind to become occupied with desire for sense gratification. Now you look at Raghunath's life, right? Sometimes I tease Raghunath. I say, Raghunath, you are like running around like a madman. Like you are just running here, you're running there.
He says that to me every day, by the way. Before the show starts.
It's like, slow down, little guy. But the fact is everywhere you go and everything you do, it may be entirely manic, but you're doing it for service. It's like, it's Tivrena, Bhakti-yoga. It's like you're doing devotional service with intensity. Even when I'm in Vrindavan,
I'm like running around.
Yeah.
The other day, who was it? Me and Bunky, we had I can't remember. We were on some call. We were on a call with Kaustubha, a Zoom call, and Kaustuba's like taking a nap. He's like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" I was stretching out. I was like, "Taking a nap? Where are you? Like in Mexico on your siesta right now?" It's just like they're taking a little nap. I never take a nap. Who's napping? Who's napping?
Well, maybe you ought to,
Maybe I ought to. If I'd be napping, I'd be like thinking of stuff.
So you just keep running.
I keep running, and I nap at night. I'm out cold at night.
So I'm appreciating that. Like, in other words, from an Ayurvedic perspective or something, might not be the soundest lifestyle, but from the devotional level, you're staying engaged. You're engaging. You're not going to let your senses control you. You're going to control them. And if you have to run around like a madman to do it, you're going to run around like a madman.
Yeah. You know what? It's one of these things we do change a little for sure. But there's part of us that is not going to change. That's just we got to use in Krishna's service. Mm-hmm. I always tell that story about, there's a Swami that me and Kaustubha like, and he's just like if you were to know him in high school or something, he's one of these guys that just like talks and talks and talks and talks and talks like me, but like 11-fold. He's just like he just talks.
I don't know who you're talking about yet.
I can't tell you.
Okay.
I mean, but anyway, he's one of these guys who just talks and talks and talks. But he's just so pure at heart that now he talks. He keeps talking, but everything out of his mouth is something beautiful about Krishna. It's still his talkingness never went away. It's not like now I'm self-realized and I'm silent. No, I don't have to get rid of what I am. I just have to purify the polluted consciousness.
I'm sorry, what was that noise that you just made to illustrate? Okay.
I got a few noises I use on the regular.
Okay. So I appreciate what you're saying, Raghunath. It's a fact. In other words, we are this spirit soul that's trapped in a particular body with a mind that's been programmed, and a lot of that programming runs very deep.
The un-Krishna conscious Kaustubha would still probably be taking naps.
I don't nap all day. I occasionally like lie down, you know. It's like you're making it sound like I'm just a napper. Like,
Just napping all day long.
But my point is this, is that we need to transcend our conditioning, but if we engage it, that's one way of transcending. So even our nature, which is very deeply rooted, you know, we don't necessarily have to become some different person, but we can engage all that, as you're saying, right?
I mean, some stuff will have to be sanded down, and you know what you got. You know, I'm looking at faces right now. You know what you got. David Charles Wilson, Lady Di Linda. You know what you got that needs to be sanded down.
Okay.
You don't have to tell us. You know, we don't know, but you know. So there's certain things that definitely have to be chopped, cleavered, you know, minced, you know, sanded,
Polished.
and that's what the whole process of Bhakti-yoga does. It starts to smooth things out,
Okay.
cut
But
away
it-
the rough edges.
But
It's
you
how
don't
you
nec-
carve, Kaustubha. It's how you whittle. Do you know that? Suppose I want to whittle
I
an
know that you
eagle.
got your
I got
Boy
to
Scout.
chop away. This is
Yeah,
boy,
chop
learning
away.
Boy Scouts. You mark it with a pencil,
Mm-hmm.
and then you chop away the bigger pieces with like a saw. When you get the basic elements, then you get in there with the X-Acto knives. You make the sort of like the curves and the creases. And then once it gets to this point where it's just like a sort of a very sort of gross looking thing of an eagle, then you start to sand it. And that's when the
That's what
magic
you're doing,
happens.
The eagle.
Yeah.
Does your mother still have your eagle?
No, she doesn't save anything. My mother like lives the Bhagavatam, completely detached. She's like, yeah, you want to come? I was like, Mom, I want to come down for your 95th birthday. She's like, all right. I'm detached. I'm fine down here.
Just
She's got a
another day to her.
boyfriend. Yeah. She's got a boyfriend. I'm at what? She's like, I can't talk right now. I'm going out to dinner with my boyfriend. I was like, all right, okay. I was like, how old is he?
Is it a younger man?
87. 87.
All right.
And she can't date older men. They're all dead.
I think you're going to live a long life, Raghunath. I think
you know
Lord
what?
Shiva's
Whatever
protecting you.
Krishna wants. Whatever Krishna wants.
Yeah, well, obviously, but I'm saying I think you're going to live a long life. I think you're going to be around a long time.
My dad died at 64. His dad died at like 63.
But you've gone past
That's-
all. Oh, no, you haven't
that's
gone
the
past
pattern.
that.
If that's
Okay, that's
no
that's the
60,
test.
63.
Yeah, that's the
63.
test.
I'm saying so if I'm following that trajectory, it's not looking good. But
Your mother.
whatever. My astrologer says I've got a strong constitution.
Oh, there's no question about that.
Let's go with the astrologer. What do you say?
That's a takeaway for today. Let's go with the astrologer. And Mara, do we have any other takeaways for today?
We do have some takeaways today.
Okay.
Resentment is a poison I take to kill you.
Booyah!
That's one of Raghu's ones right there.
Yeah, classic.
Can be a little confusing. You got to work it out when you hear it.
Resentment is a poison that I take to
kill you, but it kills me.
and not you,
And
because
not
it's a poison.
you.
But it's not because it's a poison. It's because I drank it.
I thought you were
That
going to
needs
die.
like that statement needs a purport, I guess.
I thought you were going to die, but it killed me.
Instead of you.
It said,
'Cause I took
so
it.
what I have to do is make sure you drink the poison and not me.
Next time. By not resenting you.
Unfortunately, it killed me, and there will be no next time. Okay.
Let go of hate and resentment to advance on your spiritual path.
Let go of hate and resentment.
Mm-hmm.
The
Okay.
more we engage
yes.
in the more we engage in the matrix, the more we forget our nature.
It's true.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Intensify the practice of bhakti and remain detached from results.
Get intense out there. Some of you are slacking off.
Friendship
Anything
is
about-
encouraging you to raise the bar.
Nice. Anything about
There
the
you go.
Gowanus Canal?
French.
No,
Yeah,
I didn't
raise
think
that
it
bar.
would go on this canal. And the material world is throwing bean balls at us on a regular basis.
It sure is, Raghu, isn't
No one
it?
even listens to baseball anymore, do they? They don't know what a beanball is.
People do, Raghunath. People do.
No, they don't. People don't watch. You like baseball. No one else likes
I'm just
Kaustubha.
no, Raghunath. Like
one can
thousands and
tolerate
thousands of people
baseball.
attend every game and watch it on television. They make
It's
tons,
not.
tons,
They're
tons of
all
money from
empty.
it.
They watch mixed martial arts.
They don't.
No one cares. I took my kids, my older kids, because I never got good tickets at Shea Stadium. So I got really good tickets on the dugout.
Well,
in Los
maybe you should have
Angeles.
went to Yankee Stadium. Like, nobody goes to Shea Stadium, right?
Listen. I went to Dodger Stadium somewhere, right above the dugout. 3 innings in,
Wow.
my kids were like, "Is this all that happens?" I was like, "Yep, this is it. This is it." And they're like, "I was like, we can go now if you like. I'm bored also." I mean, some guys on that baseball team will never touch a ball. If you're playing center field or left,
That's not
you
true.
might never touch a ball the entire game. It's
Yeah,
like the
I mean-
only sport where you don't have to exercise or stretch to be on the team. They don't have
You
to
ever seen
jog.
cricket? That's not
You
true.
know,
They run fast. They got to do all kinds of things, Raghunath.
A couple of them have to run fast.
No, every
You
member of
think
that
Babe Ruth
team-
ran fast? You think
Well, he
Babe
didn't
Ruth
have to
ran
because he hit the
fast?
ball so far. He made up for it with his power.
Don't get me wrong. It just got surpassed. There's certain things that are going to get surpassed and left in the dust. How about the
Baseball's one of
luge
it.
in the Olympics? Let skateboarding be part of the Olympics. Let mixed martial arts be part of the Olympics. Right?
I think they.
Why do we need the luge? How many people are doing the luge? Where you're just
Raghunath,
basically dropping.
I think we don't
off
really
a
need
mountain?
your. I think we all don't need your opinions on sports. I don't think they're helping
How much
us.
skill does it take to do the luge? It's just sort of like. Hold on.
Let's go to the
tight.
dance cam.
Thanks, everybody.